Okay, so today what we're working on is adding positives and negatives. So this is really the first one that some people will start to get a little confused on, and you're going to see why when we get to the actual rule of it. But if we start again, just like we did with the other ones with the number lines, and look at what's actually happening with these numbers, it should really help us to build up to that rule that we're going to use. Okay, and sorry about that. But what you're going to see and what you need to remember, positives and negatives are opposites. So when they're opposites and we're adding one positive and one negative, if you think of it again on the number line, they're actually working against each other. One is going to the right because it's positive, one's going to the left because it's negative. And so that makes a big difference on what we actually do to get our answer and what it's going to be. So go ahead and take a guess. Think about what you think this answer would be: 8 plus negative 3, and then we're gonna go ahead and do it here. So if I start at 0 and I'm going over to 8, because that's the first number I've got, that's where I'm starting, and then I'm adding a negative. So we got to remember, just like we talked about yesterday, when we add negatives, we're actually doing the opposite of what we would do for adding a positive. When we add a positive, we move to the right. So when we add a negative, that means we're going to have to go to the left. And so I'm at 8, and I go to the left 3 places, and that's where I end up. I actually end up at a positive 5. So maybe that's what you thought it would be, maybe not, but using the number line, we can see that is what it's going to be. Now we're going to try a couple more of these. We're going to use the number line several times before we actually move on to the rule of what you're going to do to get these answers. As we do them, again, keep on guessing. Take a guess. What do you think the answer is going to be? If you get it right, great. If not, make sure you're paying attention to how we did it and what's happening on the number line. See if that can help you with the next one. All right, so this one we're starting at positive 3. So I'm going over to positive 3. Then I'm going to add a negative. So that means I'm going to the left. Whenever I add negatives, I go left. I'm going 7 places. So that's 3 to get me back down to 0. Now you go 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 7 places to the left. Now you can see that my answer is actually a negative this time. It's negative 4. Okay? There's the second one. Now let's go to another one. Again, take a guess. Now we've done a couple of these. Take a guess on what you think this answer is going to be, and then we'll do it and we'll see. Okay? So we're starting at negative 9. So that means I'm going to start by going to the left 9 places. Down here. Then I need to add a positive this time. When I add a positive, that means go to the right. So I'm going to add 6. So I'm going to go to the right 6 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places right there. And I am at a negative 3. So negative 9 plus positive 6 is equal to negative 3. Okay? So hopefully we're kind of getting the idea of what's going on here. We're going to do one more on a number line together. All right. Again, this one we're starting down in the negatives. We're starting down at negative 4. So we're going to the left 4. Then we're adding 10. So now we're going to go back to the right 10 places. So 4 places is going to get us to 0. We're going to go 6 more. And we end up at positive 6. So negative 4 plus a positive 10 is positive 6. Okay? Again, the key to remember when you're doing these ones, adding one negative and one positive, they are working against each other. That's going to be the key. Their opposites are going in opposite directions. You're working against each other. Okay? That's going to be the key to remember how to get these answers correct. So let's go here. You need to pause the video. And then when you come back, try all 4 of these. If you think you understand it and you think you have the rule, then do the answers. If you're not positive yet, draw a number line. Okay, don't just guess. Draw a number line if you're not sure. If you're pretty sure you get how to do it, then go ahead and try. And when you're done, play the video again. We'll see if you're right. So make sure you pause it right now. Okay, so the first one, we have a -8 plus a positive 12. That should have ended up giving you a positive 4. The next one, a positive 5 plus a negative 15. That should have ended up giving you a negative 10. Third one, positive 16 plus negative 4. That should give you a positive 12. And the last one, a negative 20 plus a positive 7. That should have given you a negative 13. Okay? Those are those four answers. So hopefully you got them. If not, go back and review what you did. See if you can figure out what you did wrong. Now, make a number line if you have to. There's nothing wrong with making a number line as long as you're getting it right. That's what's important. Okay, so now we've done a bunch of examples. Okay, you tried a bunch of these. Now we want to get this rule. So hopefully if we can look back through these examples, we'll be able to figure out what this rule is. So remember, we're always looking for two things. What's the sign of the answer going to be? And what do we actually do to get the answer? Do we add, subtract, multiply, divide? So the first part, when you add a positive and a negative, how do you know if the answer will be positive or negative? Right? Before, it was always the same. They were always positive, always negative. Now notice some of these are positive, some of them are negative. Well, how do you know when your answer is going to be positive and when your answer is going to be negative? Take a guess, and then I will show you. If I compare these two numbers, 8 and 3, 8 is a bigger number than 3. It's got a higher absolute value. The 8 was positive, my answer was positive. On this one, if I look at 3 and 7, the absolute value here is 7, the absolute value here is 3. 7's bigger. This one's the negative. My answer was negative. 9's bigger than 6. It's negative. The answer's negative. 10 is bigger than 4. The 10 was positive. My answer's positive. Here, the 12's bigger. Positive. Here, the 15's bigger. Negative. Here, the 16's bigger. Positive. Here, the 20's bigger. Negative. So the rule is if you're adding a positive and negative, the sign will be take the sign of the larger number. So it takes the sign of the number with the higher absolute value. We want to make sure we say it like this because obviously if you're comparing a negative and a positive, the positive is always bigger. But what we really mean is the absolute value of these numbers, right? The absolute value of 12 is bigger than the absolute value of -8. Absolute value of -15 is bigger than the absolute value of 5. So we can really look at it and just say, well, 12 is bigger than 8, 15 is bigger than 5, 16 is bigger than 4, 20 is bigger than 7. But what we're actually talking about is the absolute value, and that's why we're going to write that down. Now, second part, what do you do with the numbers to get the answer? Obviously, these are addition problems, so we would assume, well, we're just going to add. But if we look at these, 8 plus 12, that's not 4. 5 plus 15, that's not 10. 16 plus 4, that's not 12. 20 plus 7, that's not 13. Okay? All of these. We're not actually adding. If you look at the number lines, that should give you a better idea. Remember, they're working against each other. One's going right, one's going left. So what's actually happening is we're subtracting because they're going against each other. 8 minus 3, yeah, that's 5. 7 minus 3, that's 4. 9 minus 6, 3. 10 minus 4, 6. Yep, 12 minus 8, 15 minus 5, 16 minus 4, 20 minus 7. What we're actually doing with these problems is we are subtracting, which is what really messes people up. Even though it is an addition problem, to actually get the answer, you have to subtract the numbers you're given. Because one's positive, one's negative, they're working against each other, you actually have to subtract. So if that confuses you at all, just remember, use the number line. They're working against each other, and that's the key.